Hello and welcome to episode 1404 of The Sleeper and the Bus. It is Friday, April 18th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning.
Good morning. How we doing?
Not too bad. Bright and early here in Austin, Texas. Plenty of baseball to talk about. We just spoke yesterday, had a fun episode talking about some hitters, and we're back to our bread and butter here with some pitchers, two-star pitchers. And I was talking with you about this just a moment ago offline. What week is it?
I think technically it should be week 3.5.
Right. We're talking about pitchers for week 4.
Yes, that's what I would say, but it really just depends on what site you're looking at.
There is some dispute about that first Thursday through Sunday. Is it its own week? And thus this would be week 5. And there is some discrepancy there. And so curious where everyone comes out on that.
What makes it even weirder now is when we have games in Tokyo or Korea,
right?
You have 2 extra days.
And are you calling that a week? Because it's on its own separate week, quote unquote.
I don't know.
That would be even more confusing. I don't think, hopefully people aren't there calling this week 6 now all of a sudden. But
I'm for my articles on Fantasy Pros, what I do is I just don't put a week in. And then I make my producers my editors decide what it's going to be. Yeah.
Maybe the solution, if we can't get uniform on the week number, is to just do, week of April 21st, because that's the Monday. Either way, I got it as week 4. Y'all might have it as 5. I'm down to do whatever, but we got to be universally agreed. And right now, I think it's a split faction out there. All right. As we do with our 2 steps, we're going through them. We're not talking about the guys that are locks. I know you'd love to do an hour on Schwellenbach.
We should.
Your boy is as must start as it gets, and people don't need us to be, you know what, I think I would start him everywhere. So we don't talk about guys like that. I do occasionally bring on guys that might feel more must start, but I'm kind of testing. I'm seeing where you're at with them. We have 2 guys like that today. Are we just kind of blindly starting them in all formats? And then there's some format specific ones.
You mean like Brandon Pfaadt?
I mean, yeah, I figured you'd have some trouble. I'm not doing that to tweak it. Let's start with Brandon Pfaadt here. He gets Tampa Bay and Atlanta.
Oh no, I was just saying he should be a must start. I don't know.
No, I know that's what you're saying, and I'm vehemently disagreeing with that. Both are at home, and the surface numbers. I mean, he's got 3 wins, which is really nice, and the surface numbers 304, 110, very good. But Justin, it's a 19% strikeout rate.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon Pfaadt still can't get lefties out. It's an 830 OPS with a 471 against righties. And I still just haven't seen anything to tell me that he's got a firm handle on lefties. Now, I will give credit. I think it was 9-something coming into the week. But I take some of that credit right back when I learned that it was at Miami. So, of course, the lefty OBP or OPS went down because he was facing Miami. So, he handled what he was supposed to. He didn't blow an easy start. 5 2/3, 1 run, 6 punchies. Excellent. He hasn't been bad in any start. Even the Washington start was 6 innings, 4 runs, not killing you, but it was 3 homers. And again, I look at this situation here. Tampa Bay, they love platooning and everything. They're going to stack all the lefties they can against him. And then Atlanta, I'm trying to think. They have Olsen, Harris, Albies will be hitting from the left side. And that's really it because, Verdugo and Kelenic, they're lefties, but it's Verdugo and Kelenic. So, how much are we really going to freak out about that? I don't know. 15-teamers, of course, you're starting Pfaadt. These surface numbers, you paid a relative premium for them. Is it automatic in 12s right now? And then we'll talk about 10s in a moment with Brandon Pfaadt.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to he's not going to be in my must start tier of 2 starts when I write up that article later today. So I definitely think there is a little bit of concern here just because, like you said, he has just kind of struggled to get lefties out again. We thought there was an improvement. He added a pitch. it just hasn't really come to fruition, and he has been lucky so far. He's got a 250 BABIP. He's got a 95% strand rate right now. So
That's reliever-esque. It
yeah,
usually coalesces around the high or the low 70s for starters on left on base right there. So Brandon Pfaadt running a 95 is covering for the fact that he has, as I mentioned earlier, a 19% strikeout rate, which sucks. That's just outright bad in today's game.
and it's weird because like originally I was like, oh well, he's playing Tampa Bay in Arizona, so at least it's not in Tampa Bay in their new park.
Right. In their new home run haven.
Tampa Bay is the fourth best hitting team against right-handed pitching this year.
And they're going to put in probably like Richie Palacios for Morel to get another lefty in. So it'll only be Caminero and Yandy. And then maybe they put in Rortvedt over Jansen.
Yeah.
And they might only have two righties when you factor in the switch hitters and the lefties against Brandon Pfaadt. So I think they're going to attack him with a boatload of lefties. I don't know. I think 12s, it's a little bit borderline, and 10s, it's definitely a toss-up. Because your depth of rotation is such that you won't have to start Brandon Pfaadt. I want to like him. I do. I've been pretty tough on him, dating back to the spring, where I've been kind of moving down Brandon Pfaadt, moving him down my board. I want him to be good. I like him. We're both fans here. We fell in love with him at the Arizona Fall League many moons ago, as Joe Rico brought up on yesterday's show. But I keep seeing this glaring problem that's not getting better, and it gives me pause.
It's understandable. I will say Tampa Bay is the 23rd best team offensively on the road. So
maybe they're just taking advantage of their home park.
It seems like they might be, right? And Atlanta is not been good offensively this year.
They have not, but
they're still they still got a ton of talent. Like I don't want to be like, well, I'm not afraid of Atlanta. No, you should be afraid of Atlanta. Like just because they started off a little bit slow, I think it was just kind of everybody struggling out the gate. But they're starting to turn it on, and we know they are a very good team offensively. So I think you're right. I think in 10s this is kind of a toss up. In 12s it's probably a yes, but more close to a maybe. And then obviously in 15s you're rolling with Brandon Pfaadt.
15s I think you're still running Brandon Pfaadt pretty easily.
I do agree with you. Like in spite of like the pretty good surface stats, there are reasons to be concerned.
So we'll keep tabs on Pfaadt. He's somebody that can click if the new pitch and the ability to handle lefties improves. All of a sudden he can take off, but right now he kind of lives on the tightrope a little bit. Let's go to Osvaldo Bido for the Athletics. He's home twice, and I'll keep reiterating it. Hopefully not all year, because I'll just be repeating it all the time. But you used to see 2 home starts for an Athletics pitcher and be like, yes, this is awesome. Nowadays it's like, but Texas and the White Sox coming to visit him in Sutter Home Park. Bido has not been great. He has a 16% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate. I do like that. That's pretty nice. A 10 hits per 9 has been a problem. Now, he hasn't paid the piper yet. He has a 2.61 ERA, but a 1.45 whip, which tells you that ERA is going to go up as the 82% left on base rate starts to regress, assuming he doesn't get the strikeouts in order. He's still missing bats at the same clip he did last year, 11% swinging strike rate for Bido. Where are we at here? Is this startable in 15s? I think that's really the question. I think 10s and 12s, it's a no and maybe a YOLO in 12s. But what about 15s for Osvaldo Bido with what he's done so far?
You're probably starting him in 15s. I think he's been at least good enough on the surface where you aren't going to have very many other options. But this one is really, really scary because we are talking about a guy who has a 50.7% fly ball rate and a 3% homer to fly ball rate. Like he has not given up home runs, but it's not because he's that good. He's really gotten lucky. And so now you're going back home for 2 starts. Yes, the White Sox is one where like you're not worried about at all really that much. But Texas has got a good offense. And I this one scares the crap out of me. But I think you're rolling with it in 15s because you have to, and then in 12s, it's really just dependent on what your other options are here. But yeah, it scares the crap out of me because, and I did use him as one of my streaming pitchers this last week because I can't remember who he went up against, but it was
the White Sox.
Start. And
he's getting the White Sox. He faced them at Chicago, and then he's going to get him in.
And he was good, right? Like,
yep.
But yeah,
but 0 Ks against them, by the way.
Yeah.
And I will point out for Osvaldo Bido, and this is the beauty of small samples. You know, I was talking about his 16% strikeout rate and how terrible it is, because it is. But it was 21% before that start, which is still pretty lame. I want to be clear, but it doesn't raise the red flag as immediately as 16% does. But 1 0 K game sends Bido down to 16%, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, he has no strikeouts. So, you know, it's been a weird start for him, but I do like Osvaldo Bido.
I do want to point out too, like, I know like he was a favorite of some of our friends in the industry because his Stuff Plus was 105. It's 97 this year.
Right.
Now, I'm not the biggest proponent of like Stuff Plus. I think it's a really cool tool, but I just don't know how much it always captures. But that being said, I just, you know, it's such a new metric that I don't know how much I trust it quite yet. I love Eno, and I love the work that he does, and I think Eno is the best pitching guy in the business. Sorry, Nick. But I just don't. It's one of those that I have a hard time. Maybe it's because I have a hard time grasping it completely. That I don't know how much I trust it yet. But that being said, like, that is a big drop off.
It is countered for Bido by a 97 location plus, which is still below average, but up from 89 last year.
So I wonder if this is and I should probably look at that. Like, I wonder if there is like some sort of approach change. Like, are they telling him like, hey, let's not worry so much about, you know, trying to blow someone away, and trying to get out of innings quickly, especially in that park where things can go wrong in a hurry. We don't want to risk you putting guys on base in that park, because if you do give up a home run, we need it to be a solo shot as opposed to a 3-run.
And you know what's interesting? And I don't think the 3% homer to fly ball for Bido is going to last. You were right to bring that up. It was 4% for him last year. It was part of why he succeeded. Now, that was Oakland, so you can kind of run that tightrope a lot easier than you can here in Sacramento. It's going to come to a head if he's not careful. Homer to fly ball rates usually sit around 10 to 12% for league average. So the fact that he was 4% in his 63 inning sample last year and 3% for 21 innings so far this year for Bido is a bit wild, especially as a huge fly ball guy. So we're going to be careful. I do like him in 15s. And again, it's more of a YOLO in 12s because I just don't think you'll have to. You should have a depth of rotation where you don't desperately have to start Bido. But I am holding him. I don't want to get rid of Bido. I think there's some intrigue here.
He's got a 501 SIERA.
It for a good reason, because they're seeing the fact that he has an 8% strikeout minus walk. He hasn't allowed any homers relative, you know, the home to fly ball rate is going to regress. Like, I get the panic of the ERA indicators on that 261 when you have a 145 whip. So, but we're generally in here. We're at least keeping tabs on Osvaldo Bido. Dean Kramer, I think, is a pretty easy skip. At Washington, at Detroit. Those are two, you know, kind of upstarty type teams that you don't immediately run from them with pitchers you're interested in. But I'm not finding any interest in Kramer. Am I missing anything, or can we move to our next guy?
No, I mean, he was a guy that you were okay streaming at home last year because the Orioles park was so good, and now they've moved in the walls. And both these starts are on the road where he struggles anyways. So I just honestly, I don't even want Kramer on my team in a 15.
I don't either. Like, I'm just not seeing the upside. And like I said, at Washington, at Detroit is not a cakewalk. Let's go to Boston. We got the Patriots Day game, so it's going to be a wraparound series with the White Sox with Monday's game at like 10 Eastern. Or is it 10 Eastern and then 9 Central, and then like
I think it's 11
in the morning Eastern for you? Okay.
No, it's like 8 a.m. in the morning for me. It's terrible. I hate it.
Well, because it also requires you to set the roster at websites where the first game locks everybody.
Yeah, like
And
Tower
that's
Wars is
the
a
pain.
format where it like locks everybody, and so like I have to make sure I set it the night before and
Yes.
be up super early to double check everything. And I never do. I forget every year.
Every year.
Like last year, I remember writing the Roto write up for that morning the night before and like putting in like, hey, reminder for everybody, Patriots Day, and then I forgot.
At least you helped everybody else. That was nice of
Yeah.
you. Walker Buehler gets that faded game. We know that Lucas Giolito got saddled with it one year, and he's just not a morning person, and it went as horribly as it could go. But Buehler gets the White Sox on the Patriots Day game, and then a trip to Cleveland. I'm a Walker Buehler fan in general. I wanted my Tigers to sign him. You know, their pitching development has been good. I wanted to get the pillow deal with him, see where they could take it. I know he has a good start against Toronto and then a decent one at Tampa Bay, his last two. I don't buy it at all. You want to talk about like looking under the hood and looking at the actual raw stuff that has gone into the results. I see nothing to cling to with Walker Buehler. I think his stuff still looks quite legitimately terrible. Like I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be clinging to here, even as the results improve for Buehler. 7% swinging strike rate, 19% strikeout rate. Are any of these two-step guys going to miss any bats this week? Geez, so far we're getting a bunch of guys with lame-ass strikeout rates. I think you can tell where I'm going on this one. I'm not in on Buehler. I don't want to start him anywhere. I don't mind holding him in a 15, even on a two-step against the. Actually, you know what, man? No, I'm gonna be a little bit more direct here. If you're not using him against the White Sox,
Yeah, I was just about to
get
say,
him off
like,
the team. And I think it's a get him off. I'm not seeing it with Buehler. Am I out of pocket here?
no, I don't think you're out of pocket at all. The underlying stats are terrible. You look at what he's doing, like it's a 7% swinging strike rate.
It's horrendous, dude.
Yeah,
1-7 homer.
It's an almost 93% zone contact. Like that is
He's getting
unreal
pieced
bad.
up, dude.
He does not have the same stuff. His location isn't the same. I don't know that there's much to like. I think he's just cooked, and I hate to say that because in spite of him being a Dodger before he went to Boston, like I always really liked Walker Buehler. Like I was a Walker Buehler defender before the injury because there were a lot of people in the industry that were Walker Buehler haters. But there's nothing to defend at this point.
No,
I mean, other than the fact that he's not walking anybody. Like, okay, that's good, but
that's the one plus here. 6% walk rate for Walker Buehler, but literally every other metric that we would look at is a
because he's giving up a million hits. Like,
right.
He's got a 6% walk rate, and but on top of that, he's got a 126 whip. So in fact, in spite of the fact like he's not walking everybody, he's giving up so many hits, like his whip's not even great. Like, I don't see what there is to do here other than just drop. I know most 15-team leagues won't because there really just aren't that many guys out on the waiver wire, but I think you should.
I really think you should consider not even having Walker Buehler on your roster. Yeah. Because I'm not seeing it. If you do have him rostered, you're probably starting Buehler, and I get it, but I think you should reconsider. There's not a lot to like.
I think this is like the litmus test.
Big litmus test,
right? Like
big.
You are versus the White Sox, and then at the Guardians,
Cleveland, yeah, which doesn't scare. Like you respect them; they're a good team, but like you're not running from them.
No, not at all. Like if you can't beat the Guardians and the White Sox, and at least like put up good numbers and some better underlying numbers, right?
Yes,
we've talked about this a lot. I hope people are listening to it. The underlying numbers are things to pay attention to, but they can change drastically, right? Especially just a few starts in. So like we're watching. If things aren't improving by the end of this week, I think he's droppable in 15s.
I think so too.
I think you should.
If you want to go one more week, hold your nose and do it for Buehler, but
you should. I mean, you in a 15-team league, you probably should go another week. You've got the White Sox on the on the docket right here, like so. I'm
looking, there's not a lot out there. I'm looking at my mains right now too. So like Yeah, I'll soften up a little bit on the 15s and say I get it if you're sticking another week here with the White Sox on the board, like you said, but understand that this is very much a litmus test for Walker Buehler, where he has to have two goodies, and if he doesn't, he gone
I
for
mean,
Minnesota next
let's
week.
do a quick would you rather.
Okay,
Okay. Jose Quintana or Walker Buehler.
bro, I'm a Quintana guy.
I know you are. I think
I'm
Quintana's
going
the
with
right answer,
Quintana
right?
in Milwaukee. I like that. I trust what they do. I trust what Boston does too. That's part of why I still liked Bueller, even though my Tigers didn't
And
get him. But I think Quintana's more bankable.
these are all guys available in my main event, right?
Okay,
So
so I'll take, and we're going to talk about Q later. He's on the two-step.
Landon Knack.
There, I might still lean Bueller for this week because of his matchups.
I think for this week, yes, but for the future, I think I'm going Knack. Like I want
I
to
think
piece
that's
that
fair.
Dodgers rotation.
Yep.
Michael Lorenzen.
Michael Lorenzen is like righty Quintana. And so he gets Colorado in Kansas City this week. I might go Lorenzen over the two-step Bueller.
And then Randy Vasquez.
We're going to talk Vasquez. He's on the two-step board at Tampa Bay, or excuse me, at Detroit, home to Tampa Bay. Oh God, why is that so close? Like the fact
that you're thinking about these tells you exactly where we're at with Walker Buehler right now. Because I agree with you on all of them, right? Like, yeah,
I probably lean Bueller over Vasquez, but yeah,
I think I'm taking Vasquez.
I can't even hate on you on that. Let's stay in Boston. The return of Brian Bayo begins. Now, he does not get the same matchups because, again, the Patriots Day game is a wraparound series, meaning a series that starts on the weekend and goes into Monday. So Bayo gets Seattle and at Cleveland, I should say. First two starts of the year, it's a two-step, not a bad landing spot. You know, having Seattle come visit Fenway, they're not the most robust offense. Would have been cooler to maybe pitch in T-Mobile Park against them, but they don't scare you outright. And we just said at Cleveland isn't something we're running from. Is Bayo good enough that you want to take the shot with two immediately off the IL, though?
I don't think so.
It's a strange shoulder strain, by the way, that he's returning from.
Yeah, he hasn't thrown more than 4 1/3 innings in the minors.
Okay.
And his stats in the minors were actually terrible. He through 4 starts in the minor leagues, kind of ramping up to be ready for this debut. He's throwing 14 innings over 4 starts with a 7.07 ERA.
Yikes.
Now, he has gotten 21 strikeouts, so the strikeouts have been there, but like that's against like AAA and AA pitch or hitting.
Yeah,
And
it's one started at double and 3 at AAA for Bayo.
The one start at AA was the last start.
I wonder if that was a proximity thing.
It was in Colorado or Colorado Springs or something.
Then that blows out that theory.
That's weird.
Very bizarre. I don't quite understand that.
Why would you take him away from Pawtucket to go start? Maybe there was like
had to be some sort of reasoning that they thought.
Someone will tweet at us and
yeah, so someone knows the deal there. I mean, again, the core skills have been nice. 27% strikeout minus walk for Bayo, with a ton of Ks. That's great. 56% on the ground ball rate, but like you said, the results haven't been there. 7.07 ERA, 157 WHIP. Now, I prefer this setup to, for example, like Beto's, where his ERA is really good, but his core skills aren't there. So at least Bayo's core skills are there. That's more bankable. He has been having crazy high BABIPs of 459 across these 4 starts. It is still pretty sketchy. And what I always say in the SP chart is like everyone deals with injuries their way. Some people say I never start off the IL, or I'll start this guy, or
I very rarely start off the IL with guys. Like I didn't, not that I had Strider anywhere, but like I didn't start Strider, or I wouldn't have started Strider.
It's usually smart to take one.
You just never know like how deep a guy is going to be able to go into a game. And when you're streaming, you're usually streaming for wins and strikeouts. And Bayo is one of those guys who doesn't give you consistent ratio help. So you're pretty much streaming for strikeouts here because I don't think he's going to go deep enough for a win or a quality start. So I'm
I can get
probably
there in
staying away from this.
15s, but
Yeah.
that's it this week for Bayo. I think in everything else, you're now. Would you pick him up in stash for Bayo in like a 12-teamer?
Not a 12-teamer, and just a 15.
Just a 15. You're picking up and stashing. You're not starting at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I'm starting.
Okay. And he gets Minnesota the following week, which is not a terrible matchup if things go well.
Yeah.
Nick Martinez is generally a half starter to me on the road, which is always dangerous. But he has the most disparate two-step that you can get on the road. At Miami, woo! At Colorado, boo. So where are we at with Nick Martinez? This was a guy you liked coming into the year, if I recall correctly. It's been a mixed bag, and that's a nice way of putting it. 6 ERA, 143 whip. What are we doing with Nick Martinez here?
I think I'm starting. I mean, in 15s. I think I'm starting in 15s.
Yeah, this is pure 15 discussion here. With
Yeah. In 10s and 12s, you're not, obviously. But in a 15-team league, I might like the Rockies have not been good at home.
They're terrible. That part really helps, is that they are wretched.
Yeah, they've been absolutely terrible this year at home. Like they have a one. Well, not terrible. They've been like league average. It's been a 102 WRC plus at home this year. So I think you can I think you can say like, hey, I want him against the Marlins, and I'm willing to risk it in Colorado because the Rockies aren't very good as a team. So
right. And
in shallower leagues, I'm probably I'm definitely not rolling.
No, I don't think so. I think I'll have more options than Nick Martinez in 10s and 12s that I don't have to. But in 15s, I think I could get there despite my trepidation. The at Miami is so appealing. It's at the front end too. And if something happens where he got pushed or the game got moved, if there was weather or anything in Colorado, at least that's the one at the back end. Yeah. Remember, that I'm going to be bringing up the Grant Holmes one all year, y'all. So get used to it, where we had to eat the Dodgers at the front end to get the Marlins, and then it got rained out on the back end there. At least the Marlins one is the front end for Nick Martinez.
I just hope Grant Holmes doesn't turn into this year's Reynaldo Lopez.
I have grave concerns that he might.
I do too, because it's the same team.
Right, where he never gets the two-step. Because something always happens. All right, let's go to Gavin Williams. And this is one of the guys, kind of a litmus test guy where I always put a few of these on the board each week. I came in huge Gavin Williams fan. I still am a huge Gavin Williams fan. I'm still with it for sure. But it has been, to use a phrase I just used for Nick Martinez, it's been a mixed bag, a better mixed bag than Nick Martinez. But his expectations were higher, so maybe relative, it's about the same. 4.58 ERA, 132 whip. I was watching the Baltimore game, and the grand slam to Jackson Holiday did the bulk of the damage. Now, whenever I bring up something like that, I want to be clear. I'm not bringing up this one event to say like it doesn't count or it's not meaningful that he gave up the grand slam or whatever. But to me, one bad pitch. Now, there were other pitches that got the bases loaded in the first place. I understand that, including 2 walks. But one bad pitch that results in 4 of the 5 runs that you give up in 6 2/3, to me is more important than giving up, 2 runs in one inning, 2 runs in another inning, 1 run in the other inning to get 5 runs, like kind of getting pieced up across multiple innings. We did not see that with Gavin Williams. He had a bad second inning. That's when he gave up the grand slam, and then 4 shutout innings, and then gave up the 5th run in the 7th. So what I was really impressed by was the fact that he made it to the 7th, given how bad the second inning went. So again, a lot of chatter here for me to just basically take up for my guy. I love Gavin Williams. I'm sticking with him. For me, a guy like this that I get this hyped about and I invest in, they're getting a 10-start run before I make any sort of real decision. And we're on start 4. So 5 and 6 will come this week. It ain't easy, though. It's the Yankees and the Red Sox coming to visit Gavin Williams. I tell you what, though, I'm starting him in 15s, starting him in 12s, and he's at least on the board in 10s. I still love Gavin Williams. I'm still there with him. Where are you?
I mean, I'm right where I was at the beginning of the season. This is a litmus test for you. It's not a litmus test for me. I think Gavin Williams is overrated. But And I don't see much in the numbers that tells me like, hey, like this guy's getting ready to break out or anything. I wouldn't say the underlying numbers are bad, but like I don't know how the location is an issue for him. He really struggles with
And
that walk rate.
that's what got him
And
in Baltimore. The 2 walks led to the big bases loaded at bat, and Jackson Holiday got him. And that is the huge deal right now. But I don't know. I think that's fixable, as long as he's not hurt, which obviously was your big concern with Gavin Williams. But he's upright and pitching right now.
Yeah, well, so I mean, here's the thing. Like, yes, we talked a lot this offseason about my fear in terms of his health, but I've always had skill issue problems with him because I don't think the command and control are as good as other people have made it out to be. I think this is a guy who has consistently struggled with those issues, and we're seeing them kind of bear fruit again so far this season. I think in 15s, he is a maybe for me. Especially with these kind of terrible matchups. Yeah, like it really just depends on your roster. I think in a lot of these leagues, a lot of these 15-team leagues, you don't have options, especially if you're hit by injuries, which I think just about everybody is at this point. So you're probably starting him at a 15, but I don't want to, and I'm going to close my eyes when I hit submit because he scares the crap out of me right now, especially against these 2 teams. That being said, like it is like what a 13% swing and strike rate right now.
Yeah, so, up 3 points. It hasn't resulted yet in the case.
I think the strikeouts will start to get better. But for those of you who are like location plus and stuff plus, darlings, like it's 100 stuff plus. Like, okay. And it's a 90 location plus, which is down from 103 last year.
I have a much bigger issue with that than I do the stuff plus not being there yet.
I like location plus, I think a little bit more than I do like stuff plus. Like that is the super concerning part to me, is he is unable to locate in and out of the zone right now. And when you're going up against teams with as much juice as the Yankees and the Red Sox, I think this has the potential to be a really, really terrible 2-start. And that's what scares me. That's what scares me more than anything, right?
It's scary, but I'm rolling, baby. Let's go, Gav.
I know you are, but like, I made the joke with you guys, with you, and Jason on our little text thread earlier this week. I was like, I cannot believe I sat Michael Wacha against the Yankees. And then of course, like literally like the next inning, he gives up like 4 runs. And I'm like, okay, don't feel so bad.
There you go. There you go.
But those are 2 really scary matchups. And like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of Gavin Williams. So for me, I'm a lot more hesitant to want to roll with him.
I can understand that. Even as a huge fan of Gavin Williams, this is a very scary 2-step, but we roll, baby.
It's interesting to me because, like you said, like, oh, this is one of these litmus test ones. I don't think it's a litmus test one it shouldn't be a litmus test one. I think this is one you should be pretty scared about.
I mean, that's the litmus test, though, is can he survive?
Well, but I think when you originally brought up the litmus test idea, it was like a litmus test on whether this guy should be a must start or not. He's not even close to a must start.
I disagree.
What has he done? If his name was Gavin Smith, it'd
still be a pretty common name. Williams and Smith are both pretty common.
If his name was Brandon Pfaadt, would we be having this argument with it?
Gavin Williams knows how to get lefties out.
He doesn't know how to get anybody out right now.
That's what he's best at, is getting lefties out. He's fine. Relax.
He's best at not getting anybody out right now. Brandon Pfaadt is getting people out.
Yeah, fraudulently. His command and control's off a bit. It's 4 starts. Check in with me in about 4 starts.
We will.
I'm running with this. It's dicey.
Let's check in about this a week from Monday.
I mean, yeah, obviously we will check in after the 2-step here for Gavin Williams, but even if it doesn't go the best, I'm still riding it out for about 8 to 10 starts. I want to see where we're at. Ryan Feltner, my guy, dude. I wish he was anywhere but Colorado, of course. He goes to Kansas City and then hosts Cincinnati. He's a Rocky, so that creates some trepidation. Can you find any viability this week in 15-teamers for Ryan Feltner?
No.
Yeah, I can't really either. Would you take the KC start in like a daily situation?
Maybe at 15.
Yeah, we're talking pure 15s here with Feltner. He's a
Like,
Rockies pitcher, so you gotta be real with it.
yeah, I mean, well, actually, he's got a 2.45 home ERA.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And this is why I hate Rockies pitchers, because we talk all the time about like, oh, Colorado is a terrible place to pitch, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But when you pitch there so often, sometimes you get used to that, and then you cannot
And
figure out
then
how
you
to pitch
can't.
on the road. And we
Right.
see this all the time with these guys. Like there was a year where like Kyle Freeland was like amazing at home, but terrible on the road. We've seen it with Herman Marquez at times. These guys are just so frustrating.
Feltner got cooked by the Dodgers, by the way. He went into Tampa Bay for the opener, did well, and then had the Athletics in Milwaukee.
I want to say like his stat line was actually really good coming into that.
It was. Everything looked good, and to the point where I was like, if you want to get cute, it is the Dodgers, but at least it's in LA. No, don't. And you should not have. Hopefully, you did not get cute. But that's what I put in the SP chart. Was like, if you want to. But I love Ryan Feltner. I have such a weakness for him.
Coming in, and again, this is like the small sample BS that we deal with at the early season. Coming into that Dodgers start, he had 16 innings of a 2.81 ERA.
Damn, and that's what I'm saying. You wanted to maybe get
like
cute.
That one start.
The Dodgers weren't doing their best. You're like, oh, and then boom, just a face cave.
And it was like from the beginning too. I think it was like a first pitch home run by Ohtani.
It was rough. It was 5 earned in 2 2/3, 6 walks in 1K for Feltner. Completely ruined his line. Listen, as much as I love him, I know the deal here. Don't start him. You can keep tabs on him for the occasional stream, maybe on the road, but for the most part, Justin's right about the yo-yoing between Coors. We talk about it a lot with hitters all the time, but I think pitchers have to deal with it too, and so it just ends up usually being too much of a pain. So I root for Ryan Feltner, but that's about as far as it goes. I don't usually pick him up. Let's go to the White Sox. Patriots Day game for Jonathan Cannon, so he gets the early morning against Boston in Fenway, and then goes to the Athletics. Is there anything there for Jonathan Cannon? My guess is no.
No.
What about Davis Martin then? Sorry, I figured you were done with Cannon.
No. I mean, both these guys are like AL only.
Martin gets at Minnesota and then at the Athletics. Is he
at the Athletics? No.
Yeah. Is he even AL only?
I mean, Martin? Yeah, because I think anybody with a heartbeat is probably.
That's fair. That's fair. AL like, what are you going to pick up? Okay. Yeah, so you can look at them AL only, but be careful. They're White Sox. Your win potential is like negative. So, all right, let's move on.
Davis Martin already has a win.
Wow, look at him. His one win for the first half of the year.
He's on pace for 10 wins this year. I don't know what you're doing.
Okay. You want to board bet that one?
No.
Okay. Let's go to Jose Soriano. Maybe he's in let's talk about like how lock of a starter he is, because I don't think it's like super borderline or anything here. Another guy I really like. Interesting season so far. Another guy with like some good surface results. 3.16 ERA, definitely good. 125 whip. That's a little, it's not great, but it's not murdering you. Core skills have not been there though. 20% K rate, 10% walk rate. Still throwing 98, although it is down from 99 last year. And a mile down, even if you're at 98, which is still ostensibly good, if you're down a mile, that is still important. And that's when it starts to matter, is when you're about a mile or more. But a 61% ground ball rate's doing a lot of work here for Jose Soriano and helping him, mitigate hits, mitigate homers. This is an interesting two-step. It's Pittsburgh and then Minnesota. Pittsburgh comes to visit in LA, and then he goes to Minnesota. I like it in 15s for sure. What about 10s and 12s with Sori? Where are we at with Soriano there? Does he stay in the lineup week to week pretty easily, or is it a question every week about whether or not you're starting Jose Soriano in 12s and 10s?
I think it's a question every week, but I think this week is a yes. I don't think there is a question about this week. I think with these matchups, Minnesota has not been good to start. No. Pittsburgh isn't good. So I think you are starting, and the Angels have, they're starting to cool off, but like they're still, a 500 ball club right now. So I think you are rolling with him in both of these starts. I think moving forward, we need to start having the, Dustin May, Jordan Hicks discussion
Yes,
with
we
Soriano,
do.
because
Yep.
he just allows too much contact. Like and it is by design, right? Like he is trying to get out of innings quicker. He is allowing contact, getting ground balls, letting that defense pick him up. And I think it can deliver, some pretty decent ERAs. And depending on, the defense behind him, like the whip should be okay. Not good, but just,
Your boy Zach
fine.
Neto coming back.
Yeah. But I think Soriano is one of these guys that people have been really excited about because the stuff is really good. And you're just like, oh, you kind of watch him pitch and you go, hey, this guy should get more strikeouts.
Yep.
And how long did we fall for that on guys like Hicks? And
people still falling for it with Jordan Hicks. No,
Yeah.
those
now
are
May
really good
is starting. May is starting to show like, hey, there is like a way in which you can take that and then make it strike. There'd be some strikeout upside, though. He is only at 21% strikeout rate too, so maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. And what you mean by that when you're comparing those two with Soriano is the 99-mile-an-hour sinkers, the 100-mile-an-hour sinkers that all three of them can throw are giftable as hell. Looks so nasty. None of the three of them could get strikeouts consistently.
Yeah.
Relative to how nasty that stuff looks.
Because they're trying to get ground balls and get out of innings. And
right. They want to do 3 and outs, 3 pitches and out. The one thing I will say about Sori that is impressive this year is he has a 114 location plus, which is really nice. And Hicks never locates like that.
If you've watched Soriano pitch, like the location has been like the glove does not move. Their catcher's set up, so Hoppy sets up, and then like that's where the ball goes. So like there are reasons to be intrigued, and I do have him on my main event team. So like I'm kind of excited to continue to watch him and see if he can develop. But he allows like 88-89% zone contact every year.
Yep.
And I don't think that's necessarily going away. I think this is a guy that is kind of, in spite of the fact he seems like, hey, when you watch him, you're like, this guy has top of the rotation upside. I think the actual upside for fantasy is way lower. I think he is much more of like, hey, hopefully he can become an SP3 as opposed to this is a top of the rotation dude.
I think that's well said about Jose Soriano. I am a mega fan, but I realize his limitations. So yeah, we're starting it today, this week. 15s easily, 12s he's on the board. 10s, again, you probably don't need to, but I think he would at least be on the board. Pittsburgh coming to visit him and at Minnesota. That's a good 2-step. So I could see even starting him in 10s. But Jose Soriano, to be an every week lock, needs to start getting more strikeouts, and I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think for sure you're starting him this week. I think he will go in my should start tier of starting pitchers this week. But I think you're really, and I have already made these decisions earlier on in the season in 1-start weeks where I'm not starting Soriano over some other guys, even in 15s.
Yep, and I definitely think that's fair. Our next litmus test, maybe this is a better one than Gavin Williams, because Gavin Williams' results right now aren't where they need to be or where people want them, the people that drafted him early like myself. Plus he has New York and Boston coming to visit. But Max Meyer, Cincinnati, and then at Seattle, that's a hell of a 2-step there in terms of venues. Results have been great, 2.63 ERA, 113 whip, 28% K rate. I think we're starting him everywhere. My question is he a must start in all formats right now, Max Meyer, despite the low win probability?
I think the low win probability means he's never going to be a must start.
Okay.
I mean, he will be in certain weeks, but like in terms of like set it and forget it for the season, I don't think with the low win potential, I don't know how you can.
Right.
You're now looking at him as a 3-category pitcher as opposed to a 4-category pitcher. And when I think of a must start week in and week out, I think of a guy who is a 4-category pitcher. And because he pitches for the Marlins, that is just never going to happen. This is 2 really good starts. I think he is a must start this week. I'll probably put him in my should start tier only because I don't write about the guys who are in my must start tier, and I want to write about Max Meyer every opportunity I get.
Right.
But that being said, yeah, I think moving forward, he's going to be a should start guy pretty close to every week. But it's scary because you just never like he could finish the year like he is right now, which is 28% strikeout, a 263 ERA, and he could have 7 wins. Like
Oh, for
that
sure.
is
For
that is
sure.
ridiculous. Like it's just that is how bad Miami is. I know there's a lot of talk of trading Sandy Alcantara. Man, I wish there was talk about trading Max Meyer. I know they're not going to. His
Of
cost
course, yeah, of
control,
course they
but
absolutely shouldn't, but man,
I
imagine the haul they could get.
in that park for them to not give him any run support just sucks. But
It
yeah, no,
really does,
I
dude.
love Max Meyer. I feel like between Max Meyer and Soderstrom, I'm already having a pretty good year as an analyst.
Yeah, 2 guys you were huge on, both looking
And
amazing.
knock on wood right now that neither of them get hurt or go to shit all of a sudden. But yeah, I wish he just pitched on a different spot. That's just
Anywhere but Miami. Now, the park is nice, but then everything else about it sucks. But yeah, Cincy and at Seattle must start everywhere, and in the consideration to start pretty much every week. But like Justin said, if you're chasing wins and you need wins in 10s and 12s, especially, like guys have to be contributing, it leaves him just shy of the set it and forget it for Max Meyer. I do agree there. Milwaukee has a pair going to San Francisco and St. Louis. I mentioned Jose Quintana is one of them when you brought him up earlier, and Quinn Priester is the other. They traded for him from Boston as they were hemorrhaging pitchers earlier. And, he's put up some numbers already. He has a couple starts. This is one of those where if you haven't watched Quinn Priester, you're like, okay, it's an 0.90 ERA. We don't believe in that, of course. There's been some intriguing stuff. It's a 13% walk rate. I don't love that, obviously. There hasn't been like a ton of swing and miss. But as you kind of like watch the games, like I can see how this can work. There is a depth of arsenal. There's an improvement in the arsenal here that I have a lot more confidence that Quinn Priester can make this work in Pittsburgh than I ever did with Milwaukee. And I was actually pretty intrigued by him going to Boston for the similar reason. Good pitching development squad. Now they saw fit to move him, but I like that he's in Milwaukee. I'm kind of intrigued by this for 15 teamers with Quinn Priester. I think I like him as a pickup and a start in 15s. What do you think about Quinn Priester?
He added a cutter this year, which seems to be helping a lot. Throwing the sinker a little bit more, keeping hitters off balance. The control and the command aren't great, and I think that will continue to be a problem as we move on.
That's where he needs to improve. That's Milwaukee's test, is to get Quinn Priester to command the ball better, because he has the stuff to succeed.
And like the stuff doesn't like turn into strikeouts. So again, this is like a Timu version of Soriano. Like he does pitch to contact a lot. The stuff does not look as good as a guy like Soriano, but I just in my head I keep flashing to Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad. Like you can't keep getting away with this. Like the Milwaukee finds these guys every year.
Yep.
Like they do. Like,
yep.
Tobias Myers and
who's working his way back, by the way.
Yeah, like there's just a million of these guys.
Aaron Savali, Eric Lauer, Wade Miley. They're usually like these crusty vets, like that they just get 90 good innings out of.
Yeah, and I think you're getting that right now with Priester. So I can understand using him. I would be very careful about your matchups because I think this is one that could fall apart at any moment. But in a 15-team league, it's really hard not to, especially when you're going to do good venues. But you're also going up against two offenses that have been kind of hammering the ball.
And I was going to say that next, like San Francisco and St. Louis, they're not easy. At least the venues are nice.
We just talked about like San Francisco, I think yesterday, right? And how well they're hitting. St. Louis is the 4th best team at home this year.
Sneaky smashing the piss out of the ball.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are two good venues, but you're going up against a hot Giants offense and an even hotter Cardinals one. So I think this one is In my tiers, like my last tier of guys I write about is, are you feeling lucky? And I think that's where he goes this week.
I have a YOLO tier, which is similar to that for the 2-start chart that I do on Mondays. I think Priester will be one above that. I got a little bit more confidence, but I can't push back too hard on you. There is some blind faith there.
Do you have a tier below that? The YOLO tier?
Yeah, I have the hard pass.
Okay, yeah, because I have a desperate measures one.
Yeah. So, I think we might have him in a similar range there in terms of how we feel about him. What about Jose Quintana? You talk about crusty vets. I mean, he's their Wade Miley. 2 starts so far, 0.71 ERA for him, 0.87 whip. Brewers doing Brewer things. Now, unlike with Quinn Priester, I can't do anything to really get you excited about the skills that Jose Quintana is putting up. It's a 4% swinging strike rate. It's a 7% strikeout minus walk, a 194 BABIP, and a 100% left on base rate are doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. But forget about that for a moment, okay? Because that's 2 starts. Who gives a shit? 31 starts last year of a 3.75 ERA, 1.25 whip. Jose Quintana is just a capable starter. There is downside risk, and the tough part about guys like that is their downside is usually like 5-6 earned runs. I'm not against this, though. I think I'm in the same tier as Priester, where it's like it's on the table for 15 teamers with Jose Quintana for me. What about you? I think you might be a little less interested.
No, I think it is on the table, especially in 15s. Like in 10s and 12s, I don't think you're starting him.
I agree. I don't think you have to.
And here's the reason why. In his first 2 starts in the majors this year, he's gone 7 innings in 5 2/3. That's win potential, baby. Like that's an opportunity to go get some dubs, because at least he's going to go deep enough in the game to qualify. I will say, like, yes, it is only 2 starts, so I don't want to get bogged down in the underlying numbers, but he has the 3rd worst zone contact rate in all of baseball, behind Jack Kolanowitz and Walker Buehler.
Oh, wow.
And that's if he was a qualified starter. So he's not a qualified starter because it's only been 2 starts. So I'm not worrying as much about that. I do think things will be better in terms of the underlying metrics for him as he moves on. But I think there's a lot of risk, because we just talked about these 2 offenses being on fire, and especially the Giants, who just put the ball in play. Like that's all the Giants do, is put the ball in play.
And Quintana will facilitate that for them to continue to do that.
He's got a good defense behind him. This is why this can work, I think, with Milwaukee, is that defense is really good behind him. So there's a lot of risk here. And I think this is kind of a maybe in 15s, as opposed to, okay, I think I'm rolling with him in 15s. But I think he's probably going to be the most picked up guy this week in 15 teams.
He's going to be up there. Yeah, people are going to see the win potential for Jose Quintana.
Well, and they're going to see the name. Like, this is the name everybody in fantasy knows, right?
Everybody's had him at some point.
If his name was Quentin Priester, you're probably not picking him up.
Well, yeah, because you see the skills and you'd be like, what the hell is this? But it's Jose Quintana, be like, I don't know. I'll take a shot here. Again, 2 good venues, but 2 tough teams with San Francisco and St. Louis. So be careful. I like Priester more than Quintana, but I'm a sucker for Quintana. I will admit that. Tyler McGill gets Philly and then a trip to Washington. Again, we're not running to face Washington. That's not awesome. You don't have to run from them with a pitcher you like, but you should respect them. Like they can bite you is the real point here. He's been pretty good through 4 starts, especially with the surface results. 1.40 ERA is awesome. 0 homers allowed is the big deal right now. 1.35 whip says that he's skating a bit, though. And the fact that he hasn't allowed any homers has really helped him put up that 1.40 ERA. Where are we at with McGill right now, both for the week and then kind of in general? Like, are you starting him with the 2-step? And then how do you feel about what he's done through 4 starts overall?
I'm going to say something, and I really don't want you to run away from the podcast.
Oh, God.
I think Tyler McGill is better than Gavin Williams.
How dare you?
I think Tyler McGill is what we want Gavin Williams to be.
Well, I see the 115 stuff plus, which you don't even believe in.
It's not that I don't believe in. I love what Eno does. I really.
I think you might be onto something here, by the way. I can admit that. I love Gav, but I think, again, if Gavin Williams had these Tyler McGill numbers, I'd certainly be. I'm not
If
even talking about
Gavin
the
Williams
140
was going where Tyler McGill was going in drafts, I'd be like,
that's a good
oh
point
yeah,
too,
let's go, right? Like, I'll take
Right.
the upside here, because if it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt you at all. But he wasn't. And then you add in both these guys have massive injury risk because of their health histories. But I think Tyler McGill is the guy we should have been talking about in terms of litmus test on whether or not he is a starter every week. Yes, he has gotten a little bit lucky, but that's partially because he gets a lot of ground balls too. He's got a 46% ground ball rate, only allows the ball to go in the air 28% of the time. But on top of that, he gets the strikeouts. Now the strikeouts might come down. It's only an 11% swinging strike rate. And it is like a league average zone contact rate, but he does get a lot of swings and misses outside of the zone. The stuff is really good. And
it's been nasty this year too.
And the location's not bad. Like he's doing exactly what you want him to do. And he plays on a really good team in a good park. I think I think Tyler McGill is the guy we should have been talking about as, hey, is this guy a must start?
In fairness, there was some Tyler McGill heat with David Peterson and Griffin Canning late in draft season. McGill was going pick 299 in the 57 main events. Gavin Williams had spiked up to 145.
Yeah, and see that was my issue with Gavin Williams. It's not that I didn't see the potential. I love the potential, but you were paying for that, whereas you weren't.
Yeah, but he went around like Kevin Gausman and Kodai Senga, Clay Holmes. I mean, other guys that had risk.
Clay Holmes isn't doing very well, but Gausman's doing fine, and Senga, in spite of Senga still scares me. The health, but
I'm saying the guys that he went around were guys that like also had. Listen, I don't want to relitigate Gavin Williams. You make some compelling points here, but McGill, I'm pretty intrigued.
I was trying to bait you into a board bet of.
Is that right? No, I actually like McGill. So and you've been too compelling. You've sold me on the fact that like
I should have gotten that board bet.
He's where Gav should be, and I like what he's doing. I'm starting him in 15s. I'm starting McGill probably in 12s, and I can at least consider it in 10s. Again, with 10s, the reason we're a little bit more wishy-washy is like you can have a depth of rotation where you just don't have to. So it's not like Tyler McGill is a must start because you could have a deep rotation where he's extra right now. Yeah. So, but I do think you could feasibly start Tyler McGill,
especially with the offensive environment we're in right now,
right? Or
the lack of offensive environment we're in right now. You could have. I mean, I've got 15 team rotations with, sub 2 ERAs right now. Like it's unreal. And then I've got teams with like no offense. So
yeah, with like 150 batting averages.
Well, we talked about it yesterday, right? Like Soderstrom's hit 40% of my home runs on my main event teams. So
it's been a wild offensive start. Part of that's April and things get going. The ball.
Remember when everybody after the first 3 games were like torpedo bats everywhere,
right? Torpedo bats everywhere.
And Yahoo made a little icon to tell you what player was using a torpedo bat.
Wait, they did?
Yeah. You don't know about this?
I didn't see that. That's actually kind of
Yahoo amazing. After the first 3 games of the season instituted a little icon, like you get like a day-to-day icon, or
right?
Like
they had a torpedo emoji.
A suitcase. They had a little torpedo next to guys who were using torpedo bats. Yeah,
that is truly amazing.
Every year we have an overreaction. I didn't think this was going to be the overreaction.
That one is the big one. All right, let's stay in New York. Let's go to Clark Schmidt. He made his season debut. He survived. It was a 476. It was 3 runs in 5 2/3. He was an out away from a baseline quality start. The skills weren't crazy. It was 2 strikeouts, which was kind of the deal there against KC. It was a season debut though, so I don't want to go too deep on any of the numbers. It's 5 2/3. I need to ask you about the 2-step here. It's at Cleveland and home to Toronto for Clark Schmidt. Is he back in your lineup after the season debut?
I think so. I think you're rolling with him here in all 15s, most 12s, and really just depend on your roster in attendance.
Yep. So that's exactly where I'm at with Clark Schmidt.
Really like the skills. I'm not super worried about like the first start being a little weird. it's your first start coming off of a long layoff. I think he'll be better. You want a piece of this Yankees team. There's going to be so much run support. You're going to have the opportunity. For me, it's really encouraging that he went 5 2/3.
Agreed. That's exactly the piece that I took from it, and only on 73 pitches.
Yeah.
Now, part of that is he only had 2 strikeouts, Clark Schmidt, so he didn't pile up the pitches that way. But yeah, I was impressed that he almost made it 6. So yeah, I'm starting him. I like him. I'm in. I was totally fine with people sitting out the debut, but now that you saw 5 2/3 of decent work, we're getting him back in for the 2-step.
He had a 65% zone rate.
Good Lord.
That, and he, for context, he's a career 52% guy.
Yeah.
Like, and we talk about guys with zone rate, like it going, like, hey, it goes up 1 or 2%.
How about
like that?
10?
Yeah, so definitely something to watch, and this will be a guy that I am paying attention to a lot this week. But yeah, I think I'm starting him pretty much everywhere.
Bailey Falter gets double LA, which means the Dodgers, which means we move on to Randy Vasquez at Detroit and home to Tampa Bay. You already said some positive things about him. Why don't you tell us a bit about Randy Vasquez, where he's at, and what he could possibly do this week?
He's just been really, really impressive. This was not a guy that I gave a lot of credit to coming into the season. And I'm a little bummed that I just didn't see where he was going to be at in the rotation. But honestly, I should have, considering the injury history in San Diego, and they didn't have a super deep rotation.
Well, they made the end of their rotation clear as mud, right? They had like Stephen Kolek and Johnny Brito and Kyle Hurt and Cal Hart and Randy Vasquez and Matt Waldron, and they were all just fighting, and there just wasn't a lot of clarity. So it's been an interesting year because Atlanta, Cubs, Athletics, and then Cubs again. That's a bear of a schedule there for Randy Vasquez. He's only allowed 4 total earned runs. Now, the tricky part is he has 14 walks and 8 Ks. So how are you reconciling the wonderful results with the, I think modest would be a really nice way to say it. How about the dog shit core skills?
Yeah,
what do we do there with that?
It's a negative 7% K.
And I think he's better than that. I'm going to go out on a crazy limb here and say that Vasquez is better than that. But how do we reconcile the two things here? Because I know it seems like you want to start him in 15s. Are you comfortable that that's going to turn in a good way there, the -7?
Honestly, not really.
Am I giving you an existential crisis on Vasquez and you're reconsidering him?
I think I am starting it because I think this is very similar to who else were we talking about? I can't remember now. I want a piece of the Padres team. Like, I want a cheap piece.
Right, they're 15-4.
Like, they're really. I think this is like the antithesis of Max Meyer, right?
Right.
Like, a guy who, like, the core skills are not great, but he's making it work, and there's a ton of win potential if he can go deep into games. He needs to stop walking guys. Like,
that's the big thing.
That to me is the huge thing. But I think part of the problem is he's one of these guys who just gives up so much contact in the zone that he's probably saying, I really shouldn't go into the zone because every time I do, I give up contact. But I don't think this is going to work long term. I think this is definitely a short term, pick your spots in a 15 kind of guy. And now I am kind of regretting saying I would take him over Walker Buehler.
Okay, that's fine. You can amend that then. So you're not as gung-ho about that with Randy Vasquez.
No, I will say, like, he's going to Detroit. Detroit's a good place to pitch.
Right.
And he's home versus Tampa, who's not good on the road. So I think for this week, I still am Randy Vasquez over Walker Buehler.
But maybe not long term.
Actually, no, because Walker Buehler gets the White Sox.
That's true. And then at Cleveland.
God, this may be like a flip a coin type of situation.
I think it is, but that's such an indictment of Buehler.
Yeah, it is.
The -7% strikeout minus walk guy. You're like, I don't know, maybe I would start.
I think I'm going Buehler
over Vasquez.
Yeah, because at least Buehler too has a great offense behind him.
That's true.
That can give him a
good
chance
support.
to win. And the White Sox are a worse team than Tampa on the road and Detroit
for sure. Yeah.
in Detroit.
I do think Vasquez has some 15-team viability despite the negative strikeout to walk ratio. I know that sounds crazy, but for the reasons that you highlighted, where the matchups aren't too bad, the setups are nice with the venues. I can't pretend that -7% is good. It's very, 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 very bad. But I think he can survive, and I think he's probably a YOLO where you're just like,
it
let's
is
get
very
cute.
much a YOLO. Like,
Yeah, let's get crazy with it. But I'm kind of open to it.
He's probably more of a like desperate measures guy for me. Like,
that's probably where he needs to be. And I got to be honest, though, I might like him a little bit more than either of your Giants coming up here. Let's move to them. Robbie Ray and Jordan Hicks. They're so freaking maddening, dude. They're both home for a pair. They both get Milwaukee and Texas. Let's start with Ray. Now, I was a late draft season convert to Ray, and I will say part of it was learning Scooble's changeup, and just the general hype. I got swept up in it. I'm regretting it early. I got to admit, it's only been 4 starts, and I'm regretting it. Now he's 3-0, which is awesome because your boys have been playing their asses off. But it's a 7% strikeout minus walk because the walk rate is through the roof and the home runs remain. And that's the thing that I was banging the drum on, and then I relented a little bit. And I think it's just Robbie Ray's just Robbie Ray, and which is low 4s ERA and a bad whip. And he has a 4.19 ERA and a 1.55 whip. I hate Robbie Ray, dude. I like him, but I hate him. I love the tight pants because that looks cool. But fuck him. I don't know, dude. He pisses me off, dude. He's talented. He's super uber talented, but I don't think he doesn't look very good this year.
Can I say
80 location plus? Go ahead, say what you want to say.
Okay. There's definitely an approach change that needs to happen. He is not attacking the zone at all.
Right.
He needs to attack the zone.
Pitching scared right now.
Yeah. And you're seeing it. The last 3 starts. So taking away the first start, which wasn't even a great start or anything like that, but just taking away the first start, the last 3 starts, it's been 5 walks, 4 walks, 5 walks.
Jeez, dude.
He is just
not.
What made him good in Seattle was he attacked the zone and said, yeah, I'm going to give up home runs, but they're going to be solo shots because I'm not going to put guys on base.
And Toronto, by the way, this was the theory of the Cy Young season too. Yes. Just attack.
Yeah, just attack the zone, and he's not doing that. The zone rate has dropped a good amount. That being said, he has 2 good starts. Well, really 1 good start and 3 bad starts. The 1 good start has been at home. So both of these starts are at home. So
I'll give him a run in 15s, but this is kind of a test for me this week for Robbie Ray.
Yeah.
If I don't see something, man, I'm maybe not going to cut him just because Robbie Ray is still such a talent that throwing him back into the waiver pool out of disgust is just probably not the right move, even if the 2-step doesn't go well. Plus Colorado coming to visit next week. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm staying all the way through the Colorado start. But if I don't see something turn here over the course of these next 3 starts, I think I would potentially cut Robbie Ray after the Colorado start next week.
You're on notice, Robbie Ray.
That's right. He's on notice. Meanwhile, Hicks isn't even on notice. I have zero interest in this guy. Is there any reason I should be interested in Jordan Hicks?
The only thing that is interesting about Jordan Hicks was, because I think Jordan Hicks is who we thought he was.
Exactly, which is to say, not a good starter.
Yeah, he has this problem that we were referencing earlier, that he just allows too much contact. Yes, the stuff looks really, really good. Yep. And it is really good, but he is trying to pitch to contact. And I think people saw that first start that he had this season. We're like, it's a new Jordan Hicks. It's a new.
Did the same thing last year.
And I remember being on a live stream with Nick and him being like, look what he's doing. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is one start. I'm not buying into it. I will say I watched his last start and he was still pumping 101 in the 5th inning.
I was impressed. Despite 5 runs, they all came in the first at Phil. I watched this start too.
Yeah.
The fact that he made it 7.
Yeah.
Again, I give a lot of credit for that. You give up 5 in the first, you make it through 7. That's impressive. That I did like that out of Jordan Hicks. That is a nice little hat tip. He muscled up after the bad first inning.
You know what this, not necessarily from like a stuff perspective, but like from a fantasy stat line perspective, like how different is this in like prime Miles Mikolas, right? Like a guy who, like, yes, he can give you depth, he can give you innings, and decent ratios for the most part, but the strikeouts are never going to be there, and the whip might be a problem because he allows so much contact, and you're relying on that defense to pick you up. And I don't, outside of Chapman and I think and Thomas, I guess, like the rest of that infield defense isn't very great. Like I don't know that this is a guy that I want on my teams, generally speaking, and this is why I didn't draft him.
Exactly. And it's kind of a YOLO in 15s for me with Hicks. And I think he'll be treated as better than that, but I'm just not seeing
I think in a 15, you're probably starting him just because there aren't a lot of options. And
I guess
at home for both of these starts.
Yeah.
And the Giants are good. So, like, he can go deep enough into a game to get a win. The Giants are playing well enough to, give him the opportunity to win. And you're at home where you're protected. So I think this week he is a guy you are starting, but week to week, I think you really need to think about the matchups.
And he gets that Colorado series. It's a 4-gamer the following week. So I'm fine holding Hicks through that. But again, like Ray, he's fully on notice that if I don't see something over the course of these next 3 starts, then I'm cutting Hicks even in a 15-teamer. So I can see starting him this week, but understand, go in eyes wide open, folks. This could blow up in your face. Zach Littell. Now, this is actually a good thing at this point because Zach Littell kind of made his name off the Trop. Trop doesn't exist anymore. We've talked all year about Steinbrenner. Well, I mean, it exists, but you know what I mean. They're not pitching in there anymore. The new home ballpark with the minor league ballpark makes Littell scary. So a double dip on the road might be a little bit more appealing. The problem is it's Arizona and San Diego. That is a ridiculously difficult 2-step. To me, though, in a 15, if you can't start him here, Zach Littell shouldn't be on your roster. Because if you can't start even 2 good matchups or 2 tough matchups, they're both on the road. You don't feel comfortable starting Littell at home. To me, this is a do or die. You either start him or you cut him. So if you're not going to start him this week, cut him. That's where I'm at with Zach Littell.
You should have already cut him.
I think that's totally fine. But I'm saying if he's still on your roster, and this is 15s only with Littell, he's not even on the board in 10s and 12s. But if you can't start him for this 2-step, why would he be on your roster?
Agreed.
All right, let's move on then. Mitchell Parker, our final guy, gets a double dip at home. He's got a couple teams that are pretty tough coming to visit. It's Baltimore and the Mets. He's been kind of interesting this year. Not off the charts with the skills, but the results have been wonderful. 185 ERA, 111 WHIP. He's not earning it, meaning the underlying skills don't say, "Oh wow, here's a huge breakout." But is he good enough to, take on the potential regression here, or do you think it's going to come crashing down in a massive way?
Oh,
Mitchell Parker, by the way, in case I didn't say
yeah. Mitch, like, he hasn't given up home runs, which is good.
That's been the real key to not getting burned for a 7% strikeout minus walk.
Yeah, because that's the scary part is, where did the strikeouts go?
I don't know. And he wasn't crazy last year, but 21% was livable because he didn't walk guys and he would eat up innings. And he was pretty intriguing. It's down to 16% this year, despite the swinging strike rate actually being basically the same. In fact, 0.3 better, which is negligible, but it's basically the same. So maybe the Ks start coming. He's also had a huge ground ball focus. He's gone from 0.9 ground ball to fly ball rate to 1.5 for Parker.
Yeah, and these are 2 offenses that are pretty good on the road. Baltimore struggled a little bit more at home this season. So I'm tentative on this one. I think you're probably rolling with him at 15, and I've got him in a number of 15s because he was a guy I picked up off of the wire early on.
Certainly not a must start. I would agree there that there's some tentativeness here with Mitchell Parker.
This probably goes into my here we go tier, which is kind of like a mid-tier.
Yeah,
like I don't know what to expect, but I might be using him in deeper leagues.
I think that's exactly where I'm at, where I'm open to it. It's still pretty scary. Baltimore and the Mets, no joke there for Parker. But if that's where you're at because you're dealing with some injuries and he's been kind of helping you out, I can get there. Just, again, go in eyes wide open, knowing that this could go really south. I hope it doesn't. He's a guy I root for, but until the skills improve, we are dealing with some risk here. So it's 15s only, if at all, for Mitchell Parker. But if he can do well here, then I really do think that if it's a good two-step, it really changes his outlook. But we need to see a few more missed bats. He doesn't have to be a strikeout stud, but 16% is untenable. Yeah. All right, there's the two-start board this week. Some interesting names for sure. Definitely some opportunities to make some hay, but a lot of risk out there too. So I can't wait to see what you come up with on your full board when you write it up for Fantasy Pros, and I'll have my my two-start chart on Monday as well. And that's when we will return together. But will you be on Sunday with? Oh, wait, is Sunday Easter?
Sunday's Easter, so we won't be recording this week.
Fair enough.
So, but we'll be back at it the following week, and I've got some guests that are starting to line up. So.
Fantastic.
If you guys like guests, we got Eric Samolsky coming up here in a few weeks, and some other guests that are going to be coming on. So
sounds great. Well, you and I will be back Monday then. Until then, take care.
Take it easy.